Hello, thank you for coming. Hopefully everyone can hear me. If you cannot, let me know, please, and I'll check my mic. We will start in a couple minutes. Please don't forget to leave your name, your section number, also why you came. It can be the same reason that you wrote before. Um, I just need to make everything standardized for the purpose of this thingy that I'm doing right now. So, any reason why you came, or if you have a question, please submit your question, and then we will start in about a minute. Okay, it's 7:30, so we're going to start. We have a lot to cover today, so I will just go ahead and start with what I prepared first. And whenever you have questions, please feel free to upload those questions, and it takes about 10 seconds for me to see your question. So if I don't notice your question after like 30 seconds or a minute, um, let me know. Okay, I am watching the screen, so hopefully I can catch it right away. Okay, so today we will cover chapter 3 that was taught last Thursday. Before that, I just want to let you know that exam is coming. It is from tomorrow till I think next Monday. As I mentioned, use the lecture note and the PowerPoint, and also use the Learn Smart practice exam. You can take it up to 3 times. One thing I noticed from the PowerPoint from the last lecture, chapter 3, she did the practice questions of calculations at the end, figuring out how many grams of protein that you're eating or something, if you remember that. It wasn't there on the PowerPoint that she uploaded on Canvas. So if you want to do the if you want to review those calculation questions again, because she said that's something that will be on the exam. If you want to do that, you can go back and watch the lecture video that's on Canvas. Or also, we're gonna, if we have some time, we're gonna go over, it's not gonna be the exactly same format, but we're gonna go over a couple of the practice questions together, so you can practice that way a little bit too. She said, let me change this. She said there will be, um, oops, what happened? Hi. Okay, so, oh, why is it doing this? Let me go back. Mhm. Okay, I think it's good now. So she said there will be 55 questions and there is 55 minutes. So you want to be definitely be prepared for the exam so you can finish all the questions on time. Okay, let's go to the next. Oh, just don't forget to type your name and the section and why you came. Okay, first slide that I um I picked is, we talked about dietary reference intakes. So this umbrella, so dietary reference intakes is like an umbrella of all these other recommendations that government has for us. She didn't mention all six. She only mentioned this estimated average requirement recommended dietary allowance, and tolerable upper intake level. So these three are probably the only thing that you need to know for the test, and all that together is DRIs. And here she mentioned, oops, she mentioned here that it's dietary, not daily. I don't know if it will be on the test here, but I've seen test questions before that the professors say um, daily reference intake instead of saying dietary reference intakes, and people get confused and pick the daily reference intake, but the answer is dietary reference intake. That's what DRI stands for. Here the same thing, RDA stands for recommended, let me move this back, RDA stands for recommended dietary allowance, not daily allowance. So just know that she used this picture. It's not in the textbook, but I liked it too. So I am also going to use this. Um, Hi, Megan. Yeah, hopefully, this review session will be a good review for you. Again, I'm gonna emphasize that you do need to go back and look at your lecture notes. Um, why did it not change? Let's okay. Did you guys see the previous one? Sorry, I'm not sure why this is not working as I want it to. Okay, I'm just gonna share my screen, but if I do this, I won't be able to see your comments as I do it, so it will be a little bit tricky, but I'll just check your comments um, frequently so I don't miss your questions. Okay, so this was the slide that I was talking about. You want to make sure that it's dietary intakes instead of daily intakes. And DRI is the umbrella of all these 6 components, but you probably only need to know this 3, which explains here. So EAR is for a healthy people probably, so it's estimated average requirement. So it tells you about the average amount that you need to eat for the healthy people. The RDA is the recommended allowance, so it tells you the maximum of how much, so it meets the need of 67% of a population, so almost everyone's needs. So this is a broader range of a recommendation. And UL is the upper level, and if you eat more than that, it becomes toxicity. So you want to avoid that. So if UL, for example, she said vitamin C for UL is 1,000 milligram, so that means I think she said 1,000 milligram, but so that means if you eat more than 1,000 milligram of vitamin C, there is a risk for you to get toxicity of vitamin C, and that's not going to be fun. Sorry, I was checking the questions. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, another thing that I thought it's worth going over is called AMDR. It is what I forgot what AMDR stands for, but it talks about the micronutrient. So there are 3 micronutrients that are carbohydrate, fat, and protein. So you can also see in this picture, it's a choose my plate picture from American guideline from 2010 to 2015. And here you see here carbohydrate needs to be about 50% of our total calorie. So here fruits have a lot of carbohydrate, so because it has a lot of sugar. So when you add fruits and grain together, that's about half of your plate. Fat needs to be 20 to 35%, and we have a lot of fat. I mean, proteins usually have fat. So that's about how much it is. Also, the protein needs to be 10 to 35%. So that's the portion of the protein. She mentioned that Americans eat too much saturated fat, protein, sugar, and sodium in our daily diet. So if she mentions questions like, "Oh, so and so wants to make sure that she eats all the nutrients 100%, what should she look at?" And if the multiple choices are like fat, protein, sugar, sodium, and fiber, then she probably don't need to watch out for fat, protein, sugar, sodium, because it's already probably she's probably eating plenty already in her diet. But fiber is something maybe she wants to look for, so that she has a healthy diet and she's eating enough fiber through fruits and vegetables. Okay. Um, okay. So that's the next slide. I just broke down the different macronutrients, well, food groups. So macronutrient, there are carbohydrate, protein, and fat, and this is five different food groups in this my plate. Choose my plate, and you can categorize this nutrient into different ways. So that will be one, and this is another. So carbohydrate, grain is the main food that provides carbohydrate. It is so she talked about refined grain, enriched in fortification. Refined is when um, sorry. Okay, refined is when grain is refined. When it is modified, so it's whole grain versus white grain. So white grain is processed and it's easier for us to eat. So that's refined. However, in the process of being refined, the white grain loses its B vitamins and folic acid. So the the manufacturers add those back. So when they do that, it's called enriched. So enriched grain. So sometimes you will see refined enriched grain. That just means that it's processed grain and they added all those nutrient back. Fortification is when they add a nutrient that's not supposed to be in the food um, originally, but they added it because many people have problem eating enough of that nutrient. So, for example, you will see that orange juice have calcium fortification. Orange usually doesn't. They don't have calcium, but um, orange juice is fortified with calcium, so people have enough calcium in their diet. Okay. Hopefully, hi Whitney. Hopefully, um, we will go over all the slides really quick. There are stuff that you will have to remember for the exam. I didn't see the exam, so I don't know exactly, but I can guess what are the things that you probably need to exam. So I will mention that as I go through. But hopefully, if we have more time, I can like review them again. So on one thing is that this DRI, RDA, EAR, UL, you want to memorize them and know what they are. If you are confused about it, just memorize it. The question will not be that hard, so just memorizing it will help you figure it out. Also, macronutrient, you need to memorize that in macronutrient, there's carbohydrate, fat, and protein. And um, we need about 50% of protein, and we need about fourth of fat and about fourth of protein. Well, I said 50% of protein, but I meant 50% of carbohydrate. Also, Whitney just asked if honey is considered added sugar. Um, I will say it depends. Honey itself has natural sugar in it, right? But if we are adding honey to a food on your bagel or something, then the bagel has added sugar because of honey. So it depends what you're talking about. And added sugar itself is kind of a vague word. A lot of people interpret added sugar in different ways, but generally, honey itself is not added sugar. But if you're adding honey to a food, then the food will have added sugar because of honey. Okay, let's see if there is a question that I need to answer here. So Taylor said that I want to review for the exam and possibly pick up on anything the material I may have missed. Okay, good. Hopefully this will help. Okay, so let's go back to the slide. Dairy, as you know, milk product or soy milk, if that's calcium fortified, it has the same amount of calcium as milk does. And um, I put what's on dairy, what kind of nutrients are on dairy. I would read it through. I don't think you have to memorize it. We're gonna talk about specific groups later, so I don't think you need to memorize what kind of nutrients in are in each food group. But you want to know that grain is rich in carbohydrate and milk product or soy milk is rich in it's dairy, and you want to know that beef, pork, fish, poultry, bean is classified as protein. um, Egg, nuts, and seed, they are also classified as protein. Fruits, they are rich in potassium, vitamin, folate, fiber, and phytochemicals. These are just a stuff that's usually in fruits and vegetable, and we think they're healthy. Vegetables, something that you probably want to know is that 1 cup of raw or so one portion of vegetable is 1 cup of raw or cooked vegetable. If it's leafy greens like spinach, then it's 2 cups per portion. So if it's something like broccoli, it's 1 cup of vegetable. If it's something like spinach, it's 2 cups of vegetable. If it's cooked spinach, then I'll probably change it back to 1 cup because it gets shrunk. But yeah, so it can get tricky. You want to know that something is 1 cup, but if it's leafy, has a lot of volume, then it's 2 cups. Okay, next one that she talked about that I thought maybe I want to mention is daily values. So she showed you this picture. You can see this on the label, food label, whenever you buy stuff. And this is based on 2000, oops, sorry. This is based on 2000 calorie per day. And also, you probably want to know that it is based on RDA. So, what is RDA? Do you remember? RDA is this umbrella of all the recommendation that government has. It's dietary reference intakes. So, this is based on RDA in 2000 calorie per day. Another thing that she went over that's not in the textbook, but she said that we need to know for the test is the new guideline 2015 to 2020, and this is what it looks like. So the before this, the guideline looked like this, choose my plate. The new one that just came out looks like this. Let me see if I have any questions. Let me go back to my screen really quick, sorry. um Okay, Kaylee asked, why are seeds considered a protein and not a grain? That's a great question. Um, I bet some people will disagree, but generally, seeds are recognized as protein because it has a lot of protein and oil, so vitamin E. It does have some carbohydrate, but I don't think it has more significant amount of carbohydrate. They have more protein than carbohydrate, so I think that's why they consider seeds as protein. However, um, like corn can be seeds, and I think corn will be classified as carbohydrate because it doesn't have a lot of protein. So, like I said, some people will say this thing and the other thing, but for the test, seeds and nuts will be considered as protein. Hopefully that answered the question. Um, Also, Whitney asked if there's a video I should be able to see. I'm not sure what you're talking about. I think you're talking about a lecture video. I meant there's a lecture video and there's the TA review video that I'm doing right now. That's the only videos that um that are available to you. If that's not what you meant, then let me know. But Whitney, I think it's just lecture video and the TA office hour video. Okay, another question I got. Taylor said, "Are seeds pretty similar to nuts in regards to protein?" Yes, they are. Seeds and nuts, you can kind of they you can kind of consider them as the same thing. Oh, so Whitney asked, how do I see the TA video? You can see the video by going back to the announcement, and there will be different links. So I sent the announcement with the link for that week every Wednesday. So you can just go back to the announcements tab on Canvas, and you just have to go back and find it. I didn't upload that on Canvas because um, I didn't know if there will be people for that day or something. So if you want to watch it, you just have to go back those announcements and find the link and watch it. Okay. Hi, Lindsay. She said, "Is there an easy way to remember what ERI, EER, RDA?" Um, well, let me go back to that slide. So DRI is a big thing. That's it's a big thing. I don't know. I don't know how I remember that. I just know DRI is the umbrella of everything. EAR is has A on it in the between. That's for average. So EAR is average requirement about 50 it's about it's about 50%. So here, it's about 50% of how much you need to eat for healthy people. So that's average. That's how I remember, if that makes sense. And RDA is it's another one that we use a lot. So the one that we use a lot is DRI and RDA, and they are kind of similar. One is dietary reference intakes, and the other one is recommended dietary allowance. Um, I don't know how to remember that. I just know them because we use those two a lot. Maybe just know that something starts with D is the umbrella one, and something starts with R is the one that covers 97% of the recommended amount of nutrient. And UL is easy because it's upper level. If you go more than upper level, then it's toxic, so you don't want to eat more than that. So it is confusing. You just have to repeat yourself a few times, and you will be able to remember them. Okay, so hopefully I answered all the questions. Oh, I didn't show you the slide as I was explaining that, but hopefully that made sense. Mm, okay, I think I covered all the questions for now. Let me go back to the slide. We have a couple more to cover. Yeah, okay. Entire screen. No, not that one. Here you go. Okay, so this is a new looking guideline. You still see that one fourth of your plate needs to be fruit, one fourth of your plate needs to be vegetable, and one fourth needs to be grain. The other fourth needs to be protein. You need to have some dairy and a little bit of oil. However, the big thing of big change of this guideline is that they added that we should not have more than 10% of, of total calorie of added sugar. So here when they say added sugar, that can be honey that we talked about before. If we are putting honey in the food, that can be added sugar. Um, and if we are putting jam or ketchup has a lot of sugar too, so those can be added sugar. So I just did this number. I just did a calculation here because Dr. Wayne Green did it in the lecture just to show you how much is the 10% of a total calorie. If you need 2000 calorie per day, which that's about average adult needs, um, 10% of 2000 calorie is 200 calorie, right? And sugar is carbohydrate, which has 4 calorie per gram. So if I divide 200 calorie by 4, it gives me 50 gram of sugar, and that is about 3 tablespoons of sugar, I think. So that's not a lot. You will see a can of soda have about 40 grams of sugar, so that's not a lot of sugar, and we've been eating a lot of added sugar in our diet. So that's a new big thing of this new dietary guideline that you need to know. You also need to know, I'm just going to mention here, you also need to know the gram to cal. So, what I mean by that, carbohydrate and protein has 4 calorie per 1 gram, and fat has 9 calorie per gram. So you want to memorize this because you need to do the calculation later, or as she said that there will be some calculations in the test. Okay. um I think, yeah, I think I covered all the slide that I wanted to talk about. um as I said, you want to look at the original slide, not mine, to study. I am just telling you the things that's worth repeating and something that you need to memorize maybe, but that. So here's the example of Dr. Pepper because I like the Dr. Pepper. And as you can see, that sugar is 40 gram of one can. Let me, we're gonna do a simple calculation practice right now. But before that, let me double check. Okay, there's no more new questions. Okay. So what should be the, okay, so there is 40 grams of sugar in this a can of Dr. Pepper. So the question is, what percent of calorie of added sugar is it out of total 150 calorie of this one can of soda? What percent of calorie is it from added sugar, which is this 40 gram? I am going to give you about 30 seconds to think about how to go about this question, and then I can do the calculation with you. So again, the question is, there is 150 calorie in this one can of soda. What percent of the calories come from 40 grams of this added sugar? If you have the answer already, you can type that if you want. If you don't want to, then you don't have to. But I'm gonna wait for about 10 more seconds. Okay, let's go over this. Should we? Oh, I don't have a pen, so I'm not gonna use that. Let me use my screen to calculate that. Um, is there a way I can? Okay, I'm just gonna do a new thingy here and just type. whatever. Okay, so there is 150 calorie per can, and there's 40 grams of sugar. Like I said, sugar, can you all see it? Maybe I should make this bigger, huh? Do you see it now? So, 1 gram of sugar has 4 calorie. So 40 grams of sugar should have what? 160 calorie, right? Yes, I think I'm right. And then that doesn't make sense, huh? Did I do the calculation wrong? 4 times 40 is 160, right? How can this have 150 calorie? That's kind of funny. Anyway, you're not gonna have you're not gonna have this kind of question. But um, what I'm assuming is that oh, mm, I don't know. What I'm assuming is that there probably is a little lesser than 40 calorie of sugar. So maybe there is 39 grams of sugar or 8 grams of sugar. Anyway, the answer is more than 100% of the calorie come from sugar because it is all sugar. There's nothing else. There's no protein. It's just that carbohydrate. So 100% or more than 100% of calorie come from sugar. Let's do the next one. This time we are going to do fat. So, um, hold on. Before that, did you have question on that? Oops, sorry. Did it make sense? Did you guys have question on that? If you did, please let me know. Meanwhile, we're gonna go to the next one. Okay, so let's do fat. So this is chicken noodle soup from Campbell. I just found it from Google. Oh, this is already 8 o'clock, but we're gonna finish this. It has 70 calorie total. Oh, there's the answer here. So let's not do fat, let's do protein. So um, there's a 70 calorie total. How many calorie does come from protein of 3 gram? I'm gonna give you 20 seconds this time and then we will do the calculation together. I don't know the answer. Hopefully this time it's not gonna be a funny answer. I'm gonna calculate too. Okay, let's do the calculation. Let me just do it here. I'm gonna erase this. So there's total 70 calorie, right? And there is 3 grams of protein. 1 gram of protein is 1 calorie. So when there's 3 grams of protein, there is what? Oh, sorry, why did I say 1? It's 4, sorry about that. How many calories are there? 12 calorie, right? 3 times 4. So if I do 12 calorie divided by 70 calorie, that is about 17%. So we will say 17% of this calorie is protein. Did it make sense to everyone? Okay, I don't see any questions yet, so I will just assume that that made sense to everyone. Let's do a couple more questions if you want. I have it right here. Let's not do protein because we just did protein. Let's do, I'm gonna just erase this one so it's not confusing. Let's do this question. I will give you 30 seconds. So there are, so you had 40 grams of olive oil in your meal. I don't know, maybe you had a pasta and then you use 3 tablespoons of olive oil when you cook. So you need 2,000 calorie per day. What percent of calorie did come from fat if you ate 40 gram of olive oil and that's all you ate that day? That's all of the oil you ate that day. Okay, I'm gonna give you 10 seconds and then we can do this together. Okay, did you figure out how to do it? So, so 1 gram of fat has how many calorie? 9 calorie, right? There is 40 grams of fat. So 40 times 9, 360 calorie. So just from 3 tablespoons of olive oil, you consumed 36 calorie, but you need 2,000 calorie per day. So what do? 360 divided by 2,000 calorie, that's how much you need per day. And you get about 18%. Well, I'll do times 100. Times 100 to make it to a percentage. And that's about 18%. Or if you didn't do 100, that's 0.18. That's how much fat that you ate. Um, and then the recommendation of the fat is 10 to 35% from the total calorie. So you're in that range. That's probably how much you need per day. So you don't need tons of fat in your diet. So that's all I prepared for lecture 3. I have a couple more slides if you want to stay. If you want to stay, I have a couple more right here. Let me go back to share the entire screen again. I noticed I did the practice questions and I noticed that this came up. So you want to know that um, the leading cause of death is heart disease, cancer, and chronic infection, stroke. So you kind of want to be familiar with those up here, and you want to know that heart disease, stroke, diabetes, those are chronic diseases that are related to nutrient intake, so healthy diet. However, maybe accidents, that's not related to um, healthy eating. Probably chronic lower respiratory infections, that's not super related with healthy eating. So you kind of want to know that. You don't have to memorize it, but you want to look at it a couple times so that you are familiar with it when you look at the question. Um, And I think that's probably, oh, you also want to make sure that you know the definition of placebo. Placebo is a fake pill. Um, that's an easy definition. So that's the pill that's given to a controlled group, and people don't know that's a fake pill. Fake pill. Um, so that allows a double-blinded experiment. But you just need to know what placebo is. Um, yeah, that was just something that I wanted to point out. I won't be able to review lecture 4. Let me go back to my screen. I won't be able to review lecture 4 because that's gonna be tomorrow, and the test is due next Monday. However, Dr. Wengreen uploaded all the lecture slides, so I looked at it. I think she did a good job highlighting important ones. So if you see red highlighted one, if you see exclamation point on the text, or if you see a red arrow or something, that's probably something you want to um, repeat, you want to read it maybe 2 3 times to make sure it stays in your brain. I'm not saying that's the only important one, but that's something, those are the ones that you want to pay attention to, because those the those ones maybe you need to memorize. So just go over the lecture slide, listen to the lecture tomorrow, and go through the highlighted one. So that's all I have. Hopefully, I answered all of your questions. Thank you for coming. If you have more questions while you study for the exam, when you did the practice exam, if you have questions on the answer or something, shoot me an email, and I will be able to. I'll try my best to get back to you in 24 hours, maybe less. So shoot me your email, and I will get back to you. Good luck on your exam, and I will see you next Wednesday. Bye.